Hey, 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 guys! Welcome to Chat, Chew, and You, the interactive wellness show. I am your girl, Keisha. I'm here with my girls, Ivy and Misha. Say hi, ladies.
Hi.
Tonight, we are chatting it up about love and relationships. And this is part two. If you missed part one, we'll have that link up for you. It's on our YouTube channels. But tonight, we're going to get into some love and relationships part two. Getting a little deep for you guys. We have some questions that were submitted to us that we're going to respond to as well. So, during the show, please use the Q&A button to submit your comments and questions, or on our Google Plus page, if that's where you're watching. You can also add your comments there. And if you're watching the replay, please still don't hesitate to get in touch with us, and we'll get back with you with either an answer or feedback or what have you, and we'll go from there. So before we get started, though, this is Chat, Chew, and You. So what are you ladies chewing and sipping on tonight?
Well, I'm not chewing, but I have my orange-infused water. Cheers.
Are you sure that's water that's in a wine glass?
Because I am fancy like that. I drink everything in this glass. Everything. Juice, tea, everything.
What about you, Ivy?
I have a really odd combination over here today, guys. So, last show I had berries that I dumped all into the camera.
Right.
But this time I have some sweet potato chips. And I actually do have wine. I've got some yeah, this is chocolate wine over here. It's like what's a chocolate red wine. Yeah, it's really good. You guys should taste it. It's good.
Don't waste that though.
Right, look, no, you see how you want this like there's no spilling going on this week.
Well, let's see. Tonight I have grapes. I already ate, so I'm eating my snack, which is some grapes for the night. And I have my water. Gotta go ahead and get that in. So that's what I'm chewing and sipping on tonight. But all right, you ladies ready? I'm ready to rock and roll.
Definitely.
All right.
I think I'm supposed to introduce our featured guest, which again, we're so happy to have Misha Renato back with us this week. She is the founder and principal consultant at Love Grows, the relationship consultant. And we definitely wanted to have her because our topic for this month has been around love and relationships, and this is her area of expertise. And I love the way that she approaches the whole topic of love and relationships. It's not just, a lot of times you'll hear people talking about love and relationships and they're just talking about how to get hooked up, how to get your man, how to get your woman, how to get, some great sex or whatever. But she's really going in depth into all different types of relationships, the health of relationships, and talking about how that affects us in our holistic health and wellness. So welcome, Misha.
Thank you so much, Ivy and Keisha. You know I love and relationships. So to have the opportunity and this platform to speak to your audience, definitely a pleasure. Thank you, ladies.
Awesome. So this week we're back and we're talking about mastering the art of relationships. And the reason we picked that is because, Misha, that is actually one of your feature presentations that you talk about on your website. So we really wanted you to have the opportunity to talk to our audience about that and just share some gems with us. So definitely, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, good. So one thing I would ask the audience just to take a few minutes to get something to write with, pen and paper, because I know even though this is Chat and Chew and it's a conversation and we like to flow with this conversation, but if you're like me, I like to take notes and go back and reflect on them later. And these are just little seeds that they may not even touch you now, but then when you go back and it makes sense to you. So just a few moments, get something to write with. And I wanted to start with in mastering the art of relationships. To me, what that really means is becoming a connoisseur of you. So really, you're mastering yourself. And each of our relationships is an opportunity for us to learn more about ourselves. A lot of time we go into relationships, whether it's romantic relationships, friendships, business, even with our family, and sometimes we put all of our attention on the other person, thinking it's, you know, trying to understand them better. Why are they doing X, Y, and Z? But really, it's an opportunity for us to learn more about ourselves. So in mastering the art of relationships, some of the things that I wanted you guys to think about is, what have you learned in your past relationships? Romantic, friend, business, those type of things. What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned in terms of the characteristics and the qualities that either expand your happiness and best life, and those that constrict it? And this is the thing that I like to call your historical markers. Looking back, turning back, and really looking down that road that you've traveled, looking at these different relationships, and as we spoke about on our first chat earlier this month, understanding that everybody is both a teacher and a student in our life. And so once we can step back a little bit and look at individuals that way, especially these relationships that ended, and looking at this person as my teacher, what were some of the lessons that I learned? And some of the lessons could be something as simple as, I learned the things that I don't want, the things that don't work for me. You know, maybe I learned that this isn't the best way to resolve conflict. And even though I resolved conflict in that relationship this way, and the relationship dissolved as a result, moving forward, I have learned and I have that tool in my toolbox now. Other things, when you're angry, disappointed, stressed, frustrated, when you're fearful, you have anxiety, what do you need to do to bring that level of balance and sense of peace for yourself? Do you know that? Because again, in our relationships, it's about becoming a connoisseur of ourselves. So when you're stressed, what do you need? When you're angry, what do you need? How much time do you need to vent? Do you have healthy outlets? And so knowing that for yourself, that makes you better equipped that when you enter into a relationship, especially a romantic relationship, because let's not make any qualms about it. Everything's not going to be cotton candy and rainbows and all of this in our romantic relationships. We are humans, and there are going to be times that we don't agree. But learning from our historical markers, just because we don't agree doesn't mean we have to become disrespectful. So that may be a tool that you've learned before. Okay, I need to learn how to articulate my feelings better. Or when I used to stuff things in and they came out and I vomited emotionally on my partner, that didn't support our relationship. So these, again, becoming a connoisseur of ourselves. And once you know that, you know what do you need from a partner. So, for example, if I'm stressed, some people, when they're stressed, they may want to, I need you to be a sounding board. Babe, I'm just going to come in. Babe, can you believe X, Y, and Z happened? And I just need you to listen. I just want you to be a sounding board. You know, other people, they may, when they're stressed or feeling anxiety, they may want quiet time. And some people may actually have a code word. The red robin has left the building. You know, just something that as a partner, your partner knows, okay, let me get her bath water ready, let me, whatever the case, because I know this plan's going into effect for her. Sometimes some people really need that time to focus on whatever it is, and once they've calmed down, then they're ready to share that information with their partner. So again, from your historical markers, what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Because again, mastering the art of relationship is mastering yourself. What irritates you? Where do you need to grow? This is an important one. From your past relationships, again, it doesn't matter if it was your friendship, if it's business, family, where do you need to grow? Where are some areas that you said, like, okay, this is an area where I need to improve? And more importantly, what are you doing to improve in those areas? Because you are the common denominator in all of your relationships. So it has to get to the point that you have to start looking at yourself. Everybody else can't be wrong. It can't be, you know, this guy or this girl or these individuals. Everybody else is crazy. Everybody else is too sensitive. No, you're rude. You are rude. And let's be honest about it, you know. So What is that? How do you define love? Where did you learn about it? And your definition of love and relationships, is it suiting you now? You know, do you still have this idea of love, and is it something that's practical in your life? And understanding, where did you get that from? And is it something that is aligned with where you want to go? Is it supporting the relationships you have now? Or do you need to let go of that belief, that perspective, that definition? Because you say, you know what, in my life, this isn't supporting the vision or the experience I want to have. And understanding, where did you learn about love? Because these are great conversations to have initially when you meet individuals and you're developing a friendship. Because I think a lot of times with love and relationships, we use the terms generally as if there's just one way to it. But when we start talking to people, the way that people define relationships, the expectations, especially the roles, you know, I have some couples when they're dating and they've never had the conversation about, okay, when I'm your girlfriend or your boyfriend, what are your expectations? When I become your fiance, when I become your wife or husband, when we have children, and they never have that conversation. And then it's just, okay, as my girlfriend, you know, you're fly, you have this makeup, you have this great style and all of this stuff, but now that you became my fiance, you wear too much makeup. Like, I have this vision that my fiance doesn't dress like that. And now that you're the mother of my children, so they never had this discussion about what it means in these different roles. But again, once you become a connoisseur of you and you know where you're coming from, what your views are about certain things, it makes it easier when you start communicating with other people. And more importantly, it makes it easier to identify who would make a good partner for you, who aligns with you, and you no longer have to necessarily enter into a relationship to find out a year, 16 months later, you know what, we're not compatible. And a lot of times that happens is because we don't know ourselves. And so we continue to hop in these relationships, and because we haven't taken the time to either heal our emotional wounds, to know who we are, to know what complements and constricts us, and we're just walking in there like just do, and we're surprised at some of these outcomes. But if you would have taken the time to identify, which is next I have on here, what are your patterns in the people you've dated before? What's similar about them, and where are they different? And once you start identifying this, you can start to see a pattern in yourself. What type of individual are you dating? And not necessarily just the physical attributes, but what are some of these? Because a lot of times we experience, again, since we're the common denominator, we experience the same thing with different people because we haven't learned our lessons, right? How do you know when it's time to walk away or end a relationship, even a friendship, even a business? Even when you have to put up boundaries with family members, how do you know that for you? And how do you know when it's, okay, this is an area where I need to grow, or this is where we need to do some more work? And again, this comes from knowing yourself. And so really becoming a connoisseur of you, taking the time, and especially after each relationship, even your friendships, taking an amount of time to really reflect on that space that you shared and what those lessons are and gaining those tools. So for example, you may know that, okay, having sex early, and early is subjective. You know, you meet somebody, you have sex, whatever, you haven't developed a friendship, you guys haven't identified the parameters of your relationship, and you know that emotional exchange, it doesn't work for you. You know that you want the security of a monogamous relationship. You've dealt with some people before. You didn't have a friendship. You didn't know each other. Y'all fell out. There were arguments and all of those issues, and you know how you felt about it. So you know for you, having recreational sex or having sex with individuals that you haven't taken the time to cultivate a space doesn't work for you. That's something that you need to know. And so once you move into the next relationship, regardless of what's going on, you know that, okay, I want to take the time to develop a friendship. I want us to have trust and rapport and monogamy, and we've learned about each other. We're on the same page, moving at the same pace, in the same space. That is optimal for me. You may know from last relationships, you know what? I don't want to start off when I first meet somebody and I'm texting because I don't want to text. I want to have phone conversations or I want to meet in person. So if you know that, don't start by, texting because then people may feel like, oh, okay, that's what we do. If you don't, put up those healthy boundaries, if listen, it's inappropriate for you to text me, call me after whatever time. For me, it's early. Like I feel like you shouldn't call me after 9 p.m. Central Time. Like it's just, and those are the boundaries I have, old school. Now, if we're in a relationship, that's different. If we're dating, I mean not dating, but we're actually in a relationship, that's different. But if this is someone met and we're getting to know each other or whatever, I let those boundaries be known early. That's just for me. So again, these are the things that you know for yourself. And then there's other qualities and characteristics that you may discover, like, okay, someone who doesn't communicate, isn't in touch with their emotions, that doesn't work for me because I'm not interested in pulling any information out. Maybe you dealt with someone before who shut down. They get angry, or someone who becomes very violent, and not necessarily violent towards you, but they're cursing, they're yelling, they become very difficult to deal with. They don't know how to, again, what we spoke about earlier, when you're stressed, when you're angry, when you're frustrated, how do you deal with that? And these are great conversations to have when you're first meeting someone and we're doing that getting to know each other. Because you need to know that, because that information lets you know, are we compatible? Do we complement each other? If someone just says like, hey, when I'm angry, listen, I disconnect, I disappear, I need like weeks, you're not going to hear from me, and you're just like, okay, that doesn't work for me. Because then you start to feel like if we're in a relationship, or if we're married, or what, are you just going to disappear? Like, what are you talking about? So number one is becoming a connoisseur of yourself and asking yourself those questions. So mastering the art of relationships, number two, that was a lot under number one. Number two is, I highly recommend, and this is for romantic relationships, to become friends before you become intimate and enter into a romantic relationship. Because and I don't know if you've ever heard, and Ivy and Keisha, let me know if you've heard this before, that sometimes people say that I'm such good friends with him or her that I wouldn't want to date him. I don't want to ruin the relationship.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I ask people that, so what do you do in a romantic relationship that you think would possibly ruin this friendship? And the thing about it is that we have cultivated a friendship, a relationship, trust, rapport, all of that organically happened in our friendship, and we have such a respect for each other. And so even our behavior, we are conscious and intentional about our behavior and our interactions with our friends, our true friends. If there's something that we feel that we may have, if we think there's any issues, we're quick to say, hey, I'm feeling something. Did I offend you? Do you feel like we want to smooth it out? Like, that wasn't my intention. We value those relationships. And sometimes when you don't have a friendship and we just meet these people, who are these people, these strangers? And I always tell people, like, okay, the best person you think to date is your best friend. You guys have organically developed a relationship. You're friends. You trust each other. All of those things. But no, that's not who we want to date. We want to date the strangers. We don't even know who these people are.
It's hilarious.
Oh, I didn't know. How are you treated? You're damn right you didn't know, because you don't know, John, if that's your name. Who are you? And so the thing is by developing a friendship before romantic and becoming intimate, especially the intimacy and the physical intimacy, because we know intimacy is a lot. There's emotional intimacy, mental, but I'm talking sexual intimacy. Because that friendship allows us to develop trust. It allows us to see more characteristics and qualities organically in each other, and we may decide in that developing a friendship, you know what? Yeah, we're not compatible romantically. But just look at how awkward that is, that you discover that after you had sex and you guys are having sex. And of course we know how that can cloud judgment and all of those things. And so you take time to develop this, to allow each other into their inner circle. You find more about their historical journey and where they've come from, and that has contributed to who they are, how they stand in front of you today. Those type of things. It allows each other to prove yourself, because that's the thing, that once we're friends and we trust each other and there's rapport, there's a safety there, that I know that you're not intentionally trying to hurt me. And a lot of the issues in romantic relationships is because we don't know each other. We don't know, one, we don't know ourselves. So we don't know how to deal with all of these different emotions and issues that come up in our lives. And so we damn sure don't know how to deal with you. And we don't know how to deal with you dealing with me, as I don't know how to deal with myself, you know, and it just starts this rabbit hole. So we lash out at each other. We don't know each other's emotional wounds, so we inadvertently touch them. And so we pull back in pain, and so now I'm on the defense mode because I hurt. But I don't know why I hurt, because I don't even know I have those emotional wounds there, but I know I hurt. And instead of being able to use my words and tell you, man, that hurt my feelings, or I'm hurt here, I don't know why, but I feel something, we go in defense mode, and we start, and we start fighting each other. And then from there, we end up wounding the other person, and now we're just throwing fire back and forth. And once you hurt somebody like that, it just has this little space that each time something else happens, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and this wound becomes larger. And then from there, a little bit of trust. So the wound gets bigger and trust goes further. And I don't trust you. I don't feel safe with you. But sometimes we still stay in these spaces because, of course, it's not all bad. There's great areas where you get along. But then we stay and we end up hurting each other, and that becomes an issue. And one of the areas in mastering relationships is becoming friends first. And I know it's a slow boogie. Think about the people who are friends in your life, like real friends. That's a friendship that's established over years. Over years. And it's just time, and you guys got to know each other, and there wasn't these expectations and all of this putting you in a box, and you didn't try to fast track. Keisha, come on. I need you to be my best friend. Come on, Keisha. Like, no, it's just like, okay. And each time we have an experience, trust gets a little stronger, rapport gets a little stronger. I trust you with my information. I start to trust you with my heart. And then from there, you look up, and it's like, this is my friend. This is my bud, The third thing is to be present. And mastering relationships is to be present. So not multitasking. I know we have our gadgets, and I see it a lot of times when I'm at the park and you have a kid who's super excited. They're maybe chasing butterflies, and they're trying to get their mom's attention, and they're looking at a squirrel, and they're so excited, and they're sharing what happened in the day, and mom's on her, yeah, what? And and so you're not present. This kid is trying to share a part of their world with you. And it's the same in our romantic relationships and friendships. And I know I'm not the only one who's been on the phone with somebody sharing some great information, or maybe some heart space information, and they're giving you the cursory, No, I don't. No, I want pickles. No, no pickles. Take the pickles off.
Yep.
You're not paying attention to what I'm telling you. And as we know, it's something totally different. And this is something I suggest you guys, Ivy and Keisha, and of course the audience, the next time someone's speaking to you, put your gadgets up and look at them in their eyes and be fully present. Because as a speaker, when someone gives you their undivided attention, I don't know what happens. I've experienced it many times. It's as if your thoughts are clear. It's just like, you start making these connections. And when people are listening to really understand, for knowledge, to be present, instead of listening for kind of like double dutch, I'm just waiting to jump in. I'm just waiting, thinking about what I'm going to say. I'm just waiting for my time to say something. And so the speaker knows when you're not really listening. And so even in our romantic relationships, listening to our significant others, because each time we share information, whether it's funny information, just whatever, that is the other person's way of kind of pulling you into their world, inviting you into their world, sharing this space with me. Even if it's something, babe, come look at this squirrel out the window. Well, I don't want to see no squirrel. I see squirrels all the time, but this is something that they found interesting and they want to share it with you. And if you notice, if you continue to shut people down when they try to share information, it's only a matter of time before they stop inviting you into this space. And this space is their inner space. So for example, my brother, he's into cars. I mean, he drops engines in cars. He can do everything to it. And so a lot of times, our conversations, our best conversations, is when I go in the garage with him and he's working on his car, and we're just shooting the breeze. And so again, being present, that's something that he's passionate about, and his conversation flows doing that. And so again, so another point is understanding for women, understanding that sometimes the best way to communicate with our men is in an activity. Even if the activity is something as simple as washing dishes or something like that. For women, we can sit next to each other on the sofa and just chat. We're not doing anything, we just chat. But men usually don't communicate like that. Watch that. They'll go out and play basketball every Saturday, and after they play basketball, they may sit on the bench and just kind of talk about life for a little bit and things like that. It's always around some sort of activity. And so these are things that you will notice once you become present in your relationships. And each person in your life, they communicate differently. So even with your children, child 1, maybe you're sit on the sofa, chatter. Child 2 might want to do an activity. Let's go to the park. When we're doing something. And so in mastering the art of relationships is that you start to tailor each of your relationships to that person. Because sometimes we like to show up, well, this is just how I am, and this is how I always be, and you just need to get on. No, it's not 100% you and 100% me. It's we need to create this beautiful space that is Keisha Misha, Misha Ivy, Ivy me. It's different. It's different, and you start to tailor it that way. And mastering the art of relationships is about customized relationships, not one size fits all. This is how I talk to all women. This is how I treat all my homegirls. No, it's tailored because we're very different. And just even think about how something as simple as when you go to Starbucks and they ask your name and they call your name, Keisha, latte, whatever, you're like, yep, that's me, thank you. And it's even something as simple as that. So being present in your relationships, quality time, all of that stuff. Number 4, practicing the art of speaking love. This is a huge one. Your tone, your body language. And this is one thing that I like couples to do, even in friendships, just to, out of the blue, start to mirror each other. Mirror the other person's body language. Because sometimes we need to see it. Become aware of your facial. A lot of people aren't aware of their facial expressions. Some people always have this confused look on their face. And I'll stop are you following? Is it, you look confused? And they're not even aware that their face is kind of scrunched up. Or the tone that you use. Kind of think about, if someone were to respond to me in this tone, how would I feel? For example, I was listening to a woman, and she was in the middle of a project, and her husband called, and she answered the phone. Yes. Now mind you, your husband doesn't know that you're in the middle of a project or anything like that, but being met with that tone, it feels like you're bothering me. What do you want? Why are you calling me? Instead of, hey babe, what's going on? I'm in the middle of a project. Is it something important? Do we need to speak about now? Is it something I can call you back in an hour? So just thinking on the receiving end, how would you feel? Listening to people, how they speak to their children, the tone that they use, the body language that they use. And so one of the things that I recommend for everyone is to start to pay attention to your body language and tone, and also observe the body language and tone around other people around you, even if they're not interacting with you. What does their posture say? You know, if they're talking to you and there's like that, I haven't said anything, but you guys have pulled out like, what are some of the things y'all pulled out from that, Keisha and Ivy? With me standing like this, what do you pull out?
Straight attitude. Like you mad at the world for no reason.
Automatically, to me, it feels like you're closed off and you're not really trying to connect with me.
Absolutely. And so just imagine if one of you came to me super excited about something that just happened. Oh my gosh, Misha, happy Thursday, happy Wednesday. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Yeah.
And you know what? It's so crazy because on a day when I see people, I'll say happy, whatever day it is, happy Wednesday, you guys. And somebody deals like, what's so happy about? It's just another day. What are those things? So you know what? I've learned to not say that to that person because it's been more than once that they responded in that way. So yeah, it was met with, you were never happy, so okay, I guess I'll never wish you a happy day. You know what I mean? Stay in your misery lane.
And you know what, Keith, that's a good example, just how I spoke about earlier. If you continue to push people away, they'll stop inviting you in. And just like you said, you know what? I'm not even going to waste my energy on you.
Yeah.
You know, that person doesn't realize, and I'm sure people interface with that person a certain way, very limited. And so, of course, them not being aware of themselves, people are rude. They don't speak. They just walk by. They don't say anything. And they don't realize you are the reason. People have spoken to you 501 times. And you, good morning. Just like it's such a, yeah. So, in the art of speaking, practicing speaking love, being intentional with your words. A lot of times, a lot of the issues that we have is miscommunication because we don't say what we mean. We don't mean what we say. We mix our words all up. So especially when there's any conflict or we feel, I use this, there's something in you that you just feel like, I don't know what it is. That is an indicator to you, maybe there's some misunderstanding here. Ivy, when you said X, I felt Y because of Z. And then from there, Ivy's able to say, whoa, Misha, that wasn't my intention. Oh my gosh, I didn't mean that. Or, yeah, that's what I meant. Because Misha, you are, when you do X, I feel Y because of Z. But what it does is it brings to light what the real issue is. So being very intentional with our words. And this goes back into number one, becoming a connoisseur of you. Because, for example, for me, there's going to be some times where I'm angry or my energy's low or I'm just feeling like a sorry sap or I'm in that time, you have to become responsible for the energy that you bring to people. So in those times, if I don't feel like talking, I'm not going to take your call. I'm not going to know that I have this kind of blah energy and I'm not going to, yeah, nah, nothing, nah, I'm good. Ain't nothing wrong. No. What? I'm not going to project that muck onto you. Instead, I may not take the call. I don't have to take the call. You don't know that I'm not taking the call because I'm feeling mucky. But what I'm doing is I'm honoring the relationship in the space that we have, and I'm not projecting that muck onto you. But knowing myself, I may know that, you know what, I'm feeling stressed, I'm feeling a little sorry sappy. So what I need to do is just have some time by myself. I need to go ground myself, maybe put my toes in the grass. Maybe I need to do some yoga, meditation, whatever it is, I know what that is for me. And then when I'm ready, I'll call someone back. Hey, I'm in a better space. Hey, what's going on, girl? Da, 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 da. And I may not even need to share with you that I was feeling mucky. If it has nothing to do with you. If it's something that, so just knowing those type of things, being very intentional with your energy that you bring to people. Maybe it's something, too, you may need to cancel something. I'm supposed to meet up with you, Keisha. I'm not feeling it. It has nothing to do with you. I just, Keish, sorry, bud. I can't, I can't make it.
Next time, sis.
Yeah, let's reschedule. And I remember I met up with a friend, and he was just really mucky. I mean, his attitude, oh, was horrible, but he didn't cancel. So we're sitting at lunch and he's just, oh my gosh, it's just radiating off of him. So much so that I was just like, you should have canceled. What's going on with you? Like, what's happening? No, I mean, but it's unfair to me because we made this plan, and I understand life goes on and there's different things that we have. But here it is. I'm thinking I'm meeting up with Ivy for our usual I didn't know this was going to be a therapy session. I didn't know that this was going to be a dump session. I'm not in the mood for dumping. Again, when we're speaking love, we're intentional and we're responsible for the energy that we bring to people. You have to do that. Children, they don't know those tools. Children are just all over the place. If they're not happy, they're not happy. Then they're happy. They're just all over. That's fine. They haven't learned the tools. But as adults who are making conscious decisions to be in each other's life, you have to be responsible for the energy you bring to people, to your children, to your spouse, friends, business, everyone. Learn love languages. Gary Chapman, Ivy will put a link up there. Gary Chapman is the author of the 5 Love Languages, and he has a couple of books for single people, for parents, couples, and it's a nice little quiz, A-B quiz that you take, and you identify what your love language is. And I recommend for people to do this for each of their relationships. Your sister friends have different love languages, your children, your spouse, your mom, your dad. Once you know the love language, and most of us are multilingual. Quality time and physical touch, quality time and gifts, acts of service, words of affirmation. We have these different ones. We speak multiple languages. But once you know the language of the people around you, you start to speak their language. Because a lot of times, sometimes people feel neglected or not appreciated because you're not speaking their language. It might be that my language is gifts. So Ivy, I'm showing my love to you. I'm giving you gifts. I'm sending you gift cards. I'm sending you stuff in the mail. But your love language might be quality time. Like, dang, I want to hang out.
And it is.
Yeah. So even though you're getting all these gifts, you're thinking like, man, you're not spending time with me. I feel we're not growing this space.
Yeah.
So knowing your love language. The art of speaking love under mastering relationships is to own your stuff. Know what's yours. Know what's the other person's. And this, again, is once you become a connoisseur of who you are, you're able to recognize, again, my energy's low. I'm not going to project this onto people type of thing. Number 5, we're almost finished. Number 5, timing is everything. My gosh, this has been such a hard lesson for me in my personal life, is that relationships work. Let's talk about romantic relationships. When both people are in the same space and they're moving at the same pace. We both want this certain experience. We both want to be in a relationship with each other. And we want to be in a relationship with each other right now. Same space, same pace. We want the same things. This is how relationships work. So there's some people that it might be, we're in the same space, meaning that I want a relationship or I want to get married. That's a good one. Yeah, I want to get married. Person A may want to get married within the year. Person B may want to get married within the next 5 years. So they're not moving at the same pace. And when that happens, it's unfair for this person to necessarily wait 5 years to get married. And it's unfair for the 5-year person to all of a sudden rush and get married now. So timing is everything. It may be something that, so the pace and space is huge. It's huge. Somebody may want children and the other person doesn't. Or they don't want children in that same time frame. Oh, I want children in about 10 years or so. I want kids.
That's one I can attest to personally because I don't want children. And so, if I meet a guy, it's like, you're a certain age and either you don't have any kids and now you want some, or you have them and you want another. I'm like, ooh, deal breaker, gotta go. It's not going to work.
And that's important, Keish, that you brought that up. It's important, again, by you knowing you know at the front, this is something I'm not willing to negotiate on. So there's no need for you to enter into a space with a man who's been very clear, listen, I want to be married and have children. And so you don't have to enter into that space and find out 12 months later, like, oh, this doesn't work for me. Your historical markers let you know what? This isn't something that I want, and I can honor that. So that is a great example of not in the same space, moving at the same pace. Great example. Number 6, there's only 7. Number 6 is quality, not quantity. Again, your relationships are about the quality. Don't get caught up in the numbers, all of those type of things. It's about creating quality relationships with the people in your life, including your family. And what does quality look like for you? Back to number 1. Once you understand all of those things about you, you know what constricts you and what expands your happiness. And that allows you to identify quality people for you. And then finally is to evolve, grow, and adjust. That life is not this journey and this path that we're on to relationships. It's not like a plateau. Like, okay, we got to number 6. That's it. We're evolved. We're here. Because we're always evolving. We're always growing. And the thing is there's this analogy about golf. I don't play golf. But what makes the best golfers aren't necessarily their ability to play golf, but that is one. They know the sport, but their ability to adjust. Because each course is different. Each relationship's different. Each season is different. There may be high winds here. There may be sand dunes here or whatever. So a great golfer adjusts and constantly adjusts their game based on the course, the timing, the weather. There's so many things that they take into consideration. And so to master the art of relationships is that you have to constantly adjust and evolve into that space that you're in. Something may happen. A parent dies. Somebody loses their job. There's a great opportunity to move out of the country for a job. These things that just happen in our lives, how do you adjust to these different life experiences for this relationship? So those were, so I'll go through them real quick again. Become a connoisseur of you, number 1. Friendship before intimacy, number 2. Be present in all of your relationships, not multitasking, listening. Practice the art of speaking love, being intentional with your words, responsible for the energy that you bring to people, body language, tone. Timing's everything, that balance between pace and space. Number 6, quality over quantity. And number 7, evolving and growing with this relationship, tailoring the love and the communication and all of that. So, yeah. I think.
Girl, you did that.
Yay!
That's what I'm talking about. And the common thread, if you were listening, all 7, if not, go back and listen to it. The common thread is number 1, knowing yourself. Otherwise, you. Well, otherwise, you can't do 2 through 7 if you don't do number 1. So go back through what Misha said, because it's one of those things that you just have to go through. And if you're not willing or able to do that, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that was awesome information. There were so many things I'm like nodding my head, and there were things that I was like, yep. And I'm like, I'm like laughing at myself. One of the things that I know that did stick out for me is when you were talking about friends and being friends before, well, basically friends before lovers or friends before being in a committed relationship is what you suggest. And I think one of the things I know for me in the past, I would veer away from that because that requires a different level of vulnerability, because your friends know the real you. So when you have this guy that's like your friend and he's known you, for me, it would be a guy, and he's known me for all these years, and he knows my ins and outs and my quirks, and he knows when I'm BSing him, and all of that stuff. It's like, oh, you can't really, you have to be vulnerable on a different level because that person really truly knows you. Whereas if you're dating that stranger, like you called them, Misha, you kind of have some room to put up walls, and you kind of have some room to decide what you're going to let show or not let show. That was my mindset in the past. It made me feel more protected to be with someone who didn't really know me inside and out. But with a person who was an intimate friend, it just felt like it was more of a risk because I would have to kind of put everything on the line. I couldn't really fake it with them.
So there's a question then with a lot of people who say that that's what they want, though, someone they can trust wholeheartedly and someone that they can be open with, and they want that from the other person. Then why do we consider that to be, no, we can't have that happen?
Well, I can say, let me make sure that I clarify this too.
Okay.
That now, now that I've matured and I'm more open to being vulnerable, and vulnerability is something that I seek from myself and from my significant other, it makes me actually feel more safe to be with someone who knows me, and someone that I can't BS with, and someone that I can't, pretend with, and I know that he's gonna call me on my stuff when, and it's not always comfortable, but it's like, that person really truly is going to help you elevate to the next level because they know you, so they're going to challenge you. But it's like if you have that person who doesn't know you, then you can always kind of be distant from them and not truly connect with them.
Which is in the definition of intimacy, though.
Right, exactly.
So, I would challenge those who are thinking that way and you're listening, just kind of listen to what Ivy just said and, turn it around, because a lot of times you do have to kind of grow up a little bit and kind of really think about it. We really thought about it. It's like, yeah, this is what I want. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, let's see. There weren't any questions on the chat. Monique says those were really great tips. I agree. Number one is key, having a strong sense of self. Yes, Monique, definitely the case. Ivy, what questions do we have in the chat box or that we received?
We do have questions, which this is awesome because we're supposed to be talking about healthy and unhealthy relationships as well. And I think that our questions will actually bring that to the table for discussion. So just to let you all know, we do accept anonymous questions. So we put out a link where you can send us your questions, and we don't know your name, or it's done through SurveyMonkey, so we don't know who you are. And every show we can create that so that you can send in the questions. So these questions came in anonymously. We don't know who they came from. The first question was, after so many heartbreaks, how can one continue to cope?
Go back and listen to Misha's 1 through 7. I think that's the guideline. No, I'm serious. I think that's the complete guideline to what you can do. One of the things I love about what Misha is all about, I mean, just go to her website and just read about what she does. One of the things that I like about what she has is, okay, you can have 15,000 failed relationships, friendships, and all that, just professional relationships, right? But the very next person, the very next friendship that you get to is completely different. And so we just have to come back within, do number one first, learn who we are now that we've experienced all of this, because we're a different person every time we experience new stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So learn who you are right then, right at the end of whatever this other stuff was happening, and then say, okay, now I'm ready. I know who I am now. Here's what I learned. All the stuff Misha talked about tonight. And now I can move forward. That's my take on that one.
Yeah.
Misha, do you have any comments as far as like this question was after so many heartbreaks, how do you cope?
Well, one of the things is that you have to, as we mentioned before, you have to find out what is your role in the relationship. You are the common denominator. So if you're having heartbreak after heartbreak after heartbreak, there's something that you haven't learned about yourself. Maybe you're dating people that don't compliment you, that constrict you. You're entering into these spaces. You're not paying attention to very clear red flags for you, because you haven't learned from your past experience. Maybe you're sabotaging relationships based on the wounds that you have, and you don't realize that you're having this same outcome because you're doing the same thing that's pushing people away, sabotaging people, sabotaging the relationship. So that's, again, you have to, after heartbreak, you need to say, you know what? Because all relationships don't have to, even if they end, they don't have to end in such dramatic ways. You know? So again, what is your role in that relationship? What have you learned from those past relationships? Have you taken time to kind of clear the space, or are you moving from one person to the next? And the reason that you're having the same outcome, you haven't learned, you haven't healed the space. So like Badu had Bag Lady, you're just taking luggage to luggage to luggage. And so now, after so many heartbreaks, you're looking like TSA, the security screen. It's what you're looking like, you know? So that's one of the things. And once you shift the way that you look at your exes, because sometimes if we look at them and we have this emotional, you did this to me, you broke my heart, you're a jerk, you're an a-hole, we can't see past that. You have to rise above that. And once you start looking at them as teachers, the way that you looked at your calculus professor, your English professor, you know, it isn't like you gave me a D. I didn't study. I didn't invest in the class. And sometimes it is a case that the way that people teach isn't the way that you learn. You may take calculus from another professor and their teaching ways. You get it. They speak your language. Calculus makes sense. You change majors. You're now in engineering because it was taught in the way that you learn. So one, you have to identify if the way that this teacher is teaching, or the lessons that you've learned, is it a fact of a teacher not teaching the way that you learn, or is it something that you did in this relationship? Or what are the other lessons that could be learned? Sometimes, and I think one of the things, this is a huge thing, and I know people feel a certain way when I say it. They feel a certain way. But one of the things that I say is that relationships aren't forever. There is nothing that supports relationships are forever. You're not forever pregnant. You're not forever in the 3rd grade. You're not, thank goodness for some of us, who was your first boyfriend? I'm sure you know, whether it was your first boyfriend in the 8th grade or a freshman in college. You know, even if you partner with someone and you guys ride this life together 30, 40, 50 years, there's still death. It's not forever. You know, and not to be, you know, morbid about it, but it's not forever spring. It's not, for, you know, so life is about transition. And I think once, and not saying that you get into a relationship, well, it's not forever, I can wild out, no. You know, you want to be in the same pace and space with people. But once you let go of that, and I don't know where we got that from, because there's nothing that supports that. There's nothing that's forever. There is not one example that you can give me.
Diamonds.
Okay. But even with that, Keisha, they started off with coal and with the brush, like they transformed.
And they evolved.
Yeah, they evolved, absolutely, from the pressure. So that's one of the things. So once we're able to see each of the people in our lives, even ourselves, as teachers and students, and once a relationship ends, understanding what can I learn from this space, and what do I love about this space? Because just because a relationship ends, not to, I gotta tear up the pictures, I gotta delete, you don't exist. Oh, that's like, you know, there were times, there were moments, you shared a moment in space with someone, and you can honor that, and you can still
Yeah.
that. And just know that we have gone to different paths for whatever reasons. It can be so many different reasons people end up going different ways. So back to the question, after so many heartbreaks, you need to start to see what is your role. Start looking at the people you dated before as teachers. What are the lessons that you learned or didn't learn? What are you doing that can possibly be sabotaging the relationship? And most importantly, take time to heal.
Yeah.
Take time to heal in between each of your relationships.
Yeah. And then a lot of times, people don't realize it that they're addicted to heartbreak, and that's another, maybe that's for another show. That's deep too. but some people are addicted to heartbreak. Like they're so used to the negative and the pain and the heartbreak that even when they're in a happy situation, they're kind of like trying to find a reason to be unhappy in the situation because it feels safer to be anticipating pain than to be embracing joy. So they're more comfortable with the idea of heartbreak. So sometimes you attract that and you manifest that because that's what you don't even know until you do, like we've been talking about, your work and do your healing, that you don't even know that that is a core desire that you're having. You're like, you have this fear that's inside of you and you're manifesting this negative energy in this relationship, and that's another reason why these relationships continue to end, because really within yourself you're not ready for happiness, or you're not manifesting happiness.
And that goes back to, are there beliefs, actions, behavior that's no longer serving you? Under number one, becoming a connoisseur of you. Where did you learn about relationships and love? Is this something that you're emulating? Maybe it's something you saw and that became, because unhealthy can become normal really quick. You know, just because something is normal and common in your life and your
relationship. Can we capture that? Can we capture that? Oh my God, that's like the phrase for the night, for the month, for the year.
Yeah, yeah. You know, just because it's normal doesn't mean it's healthy.
Yeah.
So you're spot on, Ivy. There's something amiss in this individual's life that either I don't feel worthy, and it always goes back to some emotional wound. When you do this connoisseur work, really think of an oak tree that's you, and you are going down into the root system. You are going all the way to the root system, and not only that, what is the water source that this root system is tapped into? Is that water source contaminated? Meaning beliefs, relationships, the foundational things that we got as children. Listen, our parents did the best that they could, whatever. But that normal in the house may have been unhealthy. And we built our life on that unhealthy, contaminated water foundation. So it's like, are there some roots that need to be cut? Do we need to uproot and plant somewhere else? Do we need to take the good, healthy limbs and repot it in a new plant? I mean, a new pot, you know? It looks different for all of us. But again, it goes back to ourselves. Great point, guys. Great point.
We have, I'll throw out another question. We have a few minutes. This conversation is so good, guys. We're this is like the first time that we like really run over, but it's really good, and I want to make sure that you guys get this, and hopefully Misha and Keisha, you guys are okay with that too. If not, it doesn't matter because you're stuck on the show. The second question was, can love work in a relationship without romance? And I think that's a really good question, because a lot of people equate romance and love as being synonymous. So I really wanted to make sure that we put that out there and have a little chat around that.
Yeah. Keisha, go. Keisha, hit it.
Okay. Can you have love without romance? Well,
yes.
My blanket answer is yes. You know, why wouldn't that be the case? I love my mom. I mean, we're not romantic with each other. I love my niece and nephew. I love my family, my friends. I mean, okay, so then I don't know if there's another there's something else behind the question. For instance, if there's a platonic relationship, and yes, you love the people that you're around, right? We don't have to segregate everything into I'm in love versus I love versus I like. We don't really have to do that. I mean, love is love.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's my personal opinion. In love and love is exactly the same thing in my book. So, yes, you can definitely have love without romance. We do it all the time. Look around. I mean, everybody that you're connected with, you're not romantic with. The ones that you love, you're not always romantic with them. So, yes, I definitely think that can work.
Yeah. And you know what I love about this is because it makes total sense what you say, Keisha. I mean, spot on. But when I looked at the question, I looked at it differently. And this is such, again, a great example of the importance of having conversations and establishing a friendship. Because, again, we're reading the same question, and you're thinking like, okay, the way that I see it, all right, everybody sees it that way.
Right.
And people interact in the world like that, but that's not true. And it's not right or wrong. It's just a different perspective. So for me, what I thought of is, can love work in relationships without romance? And when I read it at first, I was thinking, one is going back to tailoring and customizing the relationship for you. Because and meaning to having to redefine what romance is. Some people, romance is the big gesture, the roses, the dinners, the traditional romantic things, lingerie, bubble baths, hotels, like whatever the case may be. Whereas this goes back to knowing your love language, I feel.
Yes.
Because once you understand the love language, and I love to use my brother as an example because he is, to me, he's such a guy, like just a regular guy. And so my brother's love language is acts of service. That's how he shows me, my mom, the family, how he loves us. So he's not going to be big with the I love you, miss, and come hug me and stuff like that. If I say I love you, he's going to be, love you too, bud. That's what he says. He's going to get me cards. He may get 2 or 3 cards. He's going to, spell out my name and stickers and all this kind of stuff because he knows I like it. But so if I was thinking like, man, does my brother love me? He doesn't tell me he loves me. He doesn't, he doesn't say it on his own. And I know this isn't a romance thing, but my brother shows his acts of service. For example, my truck. He looked at it. He's like, bud, you need tires on your truck. Look at the thread. And he bought 4 new tires for my truck. Like, I mean, that's the type of stuff that he does. Like, bud, your computer's about to crash. Like, so he bought a new computer. So he does these type of practical, what do you need? What do you need? I'm going to fill that void for you. And that's how he loves, And so I go back to this question of, can relationships work without romance? Is, again, finding how does your significant other love? What is their love language? Because they may not be doing the roses and the rose petal type of thing, but the way that they're showing you how they love is definitely not in traditional romantic sense, but it is a love gesture. And then that's the importance of knowing what the love language is, because then I start to love you in your language. You know? And then I think from there, this could even go to the point of someone not feeling appreciated, or, you're not doing the romantic. I didn't get a tennis bracelet for Valentine's Day. I didn't get roses. I didn't whatever. And they're just like, listen, like, I pay the mortgage. You That's romantic for me. Like, I remember comedians saying the lights are on. That's romantic. You can follow your entrepreneur dream because, you don't have to worry about that. So, again, I think it goes back to just tailoring the relationship, not getting so caught up in media and the glossy print and the instant this and that, and everyone kind of one-upping. I have this bag, this purse, this car. Really tailoring it to your relationship and the person that you're with. What does that look like for you guys? What's your take on it, Ivy?
I love how both of you have like 2 different perspectives, which is why I love having these conversations. Well, because the question said, can love work in a relationship without romance? And because the person indicated the word romance, I did kind of read into it and assume that this person is looking for romance and they're not getting it, so they may feel like they're not being loved. And I see Keisha's point that, you know, we can have different types of relationships. And I think sometimes that's what we do forget, is that love comes in many forms. And I think that sometimes that's what leaves us feeling, can leave us feeling so unloved sometimes, because we're only looking for it to come in one form. And that's why a lot of times when you have those major holidays like Valentine's Day or Christmas or whatever the other romantic holidays, and there's not that person there in people's lives, they tend to feel depressed or nobody loves me or whatever. And people will be quick to say, and this is very real. People experience depression around holidays because they feel like no one loves me, or I'm not loved, because, you know, there's this Disney perspective on love. There's not like this person on a white horse, or this person throwing rose petals or climbing the trellis for me and all this stuff. So there's no one that wants me or loves me, but they don't notice that, like you said, Keisha, the mother or the sister or the aunt or the girlfriend or the brother or cousin or whatever that does those things for them on a regular basis to show that they love them. So I think it's really important that we don't negate those things and realize that those are ways that the Creator is sending love into our life. Yeah. And it's important that we show gratefulness and thankfulness for those sources. And Misha, as far as what you were saying, I am all for the 5 love languages. I read it years ago and I read it again recently, and I think that it is so important, again, in any relationship. I see its value in familial, platonic, romantic, because when you understand a person's love language, it cuts back on a lot of confusion, and it cuts back on a lot of feelings getting hurt and misunderstanding, because you might have that person who, like you said, is fixing your tires or getting a new windshield wiper or putting windshield washer fluid in your car or whatever, but because they didn't buy you something big at Christmas, you feel like they don't really care about me, they don't never do nothing for me, but this person does little things. Or maybe that's that person who sits on the phone and listens to you, or shows up for you, or comes over and watches movies with you, or goes to the mall with you, or helps you pick out those shoes that you need for an outfit. Or, if you're a guy, that's that guy that plays basketball with you or works on your car with you. Like, they show their love in a different way. So it's like when you understand the different ways that love are shown, then you can appreciate people more. I personally like romance, but like I said, my love language is quality time. My primary love language is quality time, and then my second one is words of affirmation. So it's like, if you're spending time with me, we're watching Netflix all day, I'm happy. Like, you don't have to do this like we see on TV, rose petals from the front door to the bed in the kitchen and all that stuff. We can have pizza, we can have Netflix, or if you're just sitting there talking to me, having conversation and listening and engaging, I'm happy. Words of affirmation is my secondary love language. So I know that if someone really expresses how they feel for me in words, it means so much to me. I have friends who write me emails or will send me something, or will have a conversation and they'll say something that really impacts how they feel about me, or vice versa. I express how I feel for people in words. So I can feel loved from that. But a person who maybe is, I guess, Misha, that would be what romance would probably be gifts.
Romance, it could definitely be, and I guess it depends on how romance. It could be physical touch, quality time. It could be gifts. You're absolutely right. Words of affirmation, the lovey-dovey. I mean, romance can fall under all of those.
Yeah, and if that's your expectation of love, and again, I think that goes back to what you said earlier, Misha, when you said what's your definition of love, and then where did you learn about love? You know, if you got that from, a lot of us don't realize we've gotten this from media and TV and movies and Disney and all that stuff, and we expect it to be, even when we get into those relationships and it's 5, 10 years down the road, and you know the person's not wooing us and doing all this extra stuff, it's like, well, they don't love me anymore. You know, you don't love me like you used to. And we don't really mean you don't love me. We mean that you don't communicate to me in my love language the way that you used to sometimes.
And I love that how you spoke about the language is because, and sometimes it's easier if people think about it as a real language. So, Ivy, if you speak Spanish and I speak English, but I understand Spanish, it's we're still missing out on it. It's like, okay, well, since I understand Spanish, you can go full-fledged, express yourself, and I get it. But if I don't speak Spanish, or you don't speak English, there's so much you're missing.
Yeah.
And there's that disconnect. So it's the same thing with our love languages, and that's why it's so important. And one of the things I also wanted to say, and really want our listeners to think about, if in our relationships and mastering it, you have to take it a step above what's there. So for example, Ivy, with words of affirmation being your love language, that also means that words of affirmations, when I'm like quadlingual, like I have like all yep, that's me, yep, like I'm just this big emotional, but at the same time, you're right, words of affirmations, one of mine as well. With the written word, the spoken word, I express the cards, the handwritten, y'all have your books, written notes, all of those things. But at the same time, for us, words are just as painful for us as well. On the other, people who are, and so you understand that. So someone whose love language is physical touch, when you withhold it from them, it's very painful for them because that's their language. And so understanding kind of the duality of all of these languages that we speak. So if my love language is gifts, and especially on Valentine's Day, like I'm just, yes, on my birthday, yes, and you don't get me anything on these things that are my big language days, then I feel like it's that other side. So this is the importance of knowing your person's language and making sure that, and of course I'm sure we'll have a conversation later, once you have developed this friendship and rapport, you never want to intentionally hurt the other person. And so even with my couples, I'm huge with them and even their children, not to go to bed angry, to understand that whatever's going on here, that our relationship, this whole I'm in the bed sleeping, we're not touching, just those type of things. I'm going to get up in the morning, I'm not speaking to you, I'm not speaking to the children. And I don't know if some of you all know, my background also is in public health, and I have experience working in a hospital setting. And it's not until you're in a hospital setting that you realize that hospitals are 24/7. Like, I mean, our health is good, nothing's wrong with our loved ones, so we're far removed from the hospital setting. But when I tell you Lifeline comes in every day Lifeline comes in. And nobody on Lifeline started their day with, you know what, I'm going to be in Lifeline at 3 o'clock. I'm going to be in critical condition. And so I tell people really to shift a lot of the things that we spend so much energy and holding on to in the grand scheme of things, because life can change, and again, this isn't a scare tactic, but life can change in an instant. And I want to live my life to the point that I never want it to be that you're sitting somewhere with regrets, that you left the house not speaking, or you did something or whatever, and now you got the sour face as you're dealing with this real unexpected life change, and you really have to think about it. If my life was the Atlantic Ocean, this incident that I think is so huge, what role does it play in my life? And when you're able to step back and you think about a pebble or even a boulder or even whatever in the Atlantic Ocean, it's not as big as we think some of these things are. You know, so really it's an honor to love and to have people love you in return. It's an honor to be able to co-create relationships with people. You know, if you need to forgive someone, forgive them. If you need to ask for it, if you need to apologize, like, life is too precious for us to be walking around here with grudges and, you know, and not thinking we're good enough. That's a huge one. We talked about that on the first one.
Right.
You know, it's like we have to make that shift and understand that I'm worthy. If I need some work to do, let me do the work. If I need to make some changes, let me make the changes. But to become a connoisseur of ourselves, once we are able to master who we are, our relationships will change because we see the world differently in each other.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Keisha, did you have anything to add before we start wrapping up for the evening?
I do want to, Misha mentioned change. I want to put out my favorite quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change. Love that quote. It's all about perspective, and I use it all the time in all types of different scenarios. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at will change. Get Dr. Wayne Dyer's books, too. He is awesome. I reread his stuff all the time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm there with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you, ladies, and thank you, everyone who's been watching. And if you're watching the recorded show, we definitely want to hear from you. So leave a comment on the video or in the event, or if you want to email us, you can always do that. Misha's website is up right now, so you can click on that and go directly to her website and find out more about her. I do want to say that Misha sent us, both Keisha and I, an awesome copy of her, a copy of her awesome book. And okay, guys, I really love this book because I'm visual, and it's gorgeous. Like on the inside, she's got these full color pages, and you know, she's got line pages in here for journaling, so you can write your thoughts. I don't know if you can see the lines on there, but so you can write your thoughts. And she put so much detail into this book. So I was telling her before the show that I'm going to use this book during the next few weeks during my time that I'll be focusing my energy on improving myself, to read and journal and just take some time out for me. So definitely check out her website, and she has more information there, and she has some awesome YouTube videos too that you all can check out. So don't miss out on that. Also, make sure you visit chatchewandyu.com, which is me and Keisha's joint website for the show. That's where you'll find the information for our next show. We already have that. Well, after this show, you'll get we already have our next guest speaker lined up, and we're so excited about that. We've already got that set up for March, so you'll be able to see that, and you can also sign up for our newsletter so you can stay on the pulse of what we have going on. Keisha, did you want to tell us more about our topic for next week?
Next time that we get together, March 4th, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, we will have our girl Akila Richards on with us, who is going to be talking about how our feelings weigh down our bodies. And that's really, really huge when we talk about how we can become our better selves and how we can, you know, in the health and wellness field, we talk about everything else outside of ourselves. And I like that we're going to be talking about our own feelings and how we can actually make our bodies worse based on, or better based on how we feel. So I really want to delve into that topic, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Well, wait a minute. I'm not the guest for March? What is this about? I thought it was Keisha, Misha, and Ivy. Don't try to say chat chew with me and Keisha. What about me? Chat chew? Chat chew? You want to be the you?
You to you.
It has been so fun with you here. It is going to be like, oh, man. We're going to miss your energy for sure.
That's okay. You'll be back, Misha. Don't worry. We tap you.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Clearly, we could talk about this forever.
All our marching stuff. When your next guest there, I'm gonna put the questions in. What about Misha? Where's that Misha girl?
That is hilarious. We got you, boo.
Yes, I'll be back. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Misha, for being here. We've had so much fun with you and your energy. I've learned a lot, and your energy is beautiful, and I just love having you here on the show. You guys definitely, like I said, give us your feedback about the show, your questions, and if you have things that you'd like for us to talk about or to discuss, send that to us as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yay. Bye.
All right. Good night, everybody, or good morning, or whatever time it is for you and your part of the globe. Peace. There you go. Bye-bye. That and just share some gems with us. So definitely, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, good. So one thing I would ask the audience just to take a few minutes to get something to write with, pen and paper, because I know even though this is chat and chew and it's a conversation and we like to flow with this conversation, but if you're like me, I like to take notes and go back and reflect on them later. And these are just little seeds that they may not even touch you now, but then when you go back and it makes sense to you. So just a few moments, get something to write with. And I wanted to start with in mastering the art of relationships. To me, what that really means is becoming a connoisseur of you. So really, you're mastering yourself. And each of our relationships is an opportunity for us to learn more about ourselves. A lot of time we go into relationships, whether it's romantic relationships, friendships, business, even with our family, and sometimes we put all of our attention on the other person, thinking it's, trying to understand them better. Why are they doing X, Y, and Z? But really, it's an opportunity for us to learn more about ourselves. So in mastering the art of relationships, some of the things that I wanted you guys to think about is, what have you learned in your past relationships? Romantic, friend, business, those type of things. What have you learned about yourself? What have you learned in terms of the characteristics and the qualities that either expand your happiness and best life, and those that constrict it? And this is the thing that I like to call your historical markers. Looking back, turning back, and really looking down that road that you've traveled, looking at these different relationships, and as we spoke about on our first chat earlier this month, understanding that everybody is both a teacher and a student in our life. And so once we can step back a little bit and look at individuals that way, especially these relationships that ended.
Hey, guys. Welcome to Chat, Chew, and You, the interactive wellness show. I am your girl, Keisha. I'm here with my girls, Ivy and Misha. Say hi, ladies.
Hi.
Tonight, we are chatting it up about love and relationships. And this is part 2. If you missed part 1, we'll have that link up for you. It's on our YouTube channels. But tonight, we're going to get into some love and relationships part 2. Getting a little deep for you guys. We have some questions that were submitted to us that we're going to respond to as well. So, during the show, please use the Q&A button to submit your comments and questions, or on our Google Plus page, if that's where you're watching, you can also add your comments there. And if you're watching the replay, please still don't hesitate to get in touch with us, and we'll get back with you with either an answer or feedback or what have you, and we'll go from there. So before we get started, though, this is Chat, Chew, and You. So what are you ladies chewing and sipping on tonight?
Well, I'm not chewing, but I have my orange-infused water. Cheers.
Are you sure that's water that's in a wine glass?
Because I am fancy like that. I drink everything in this glass. Everything. Juice, tea, everything.
What about you, Ivy?
I have a really odd combination over here today, guys. So, last show I had berries that I dumped all into the camera.
Right.
But this time I have some sweet potato chips. And I actually do have wine. I've got some yeah, this is chocolate wine over here. It's like what's a chocolate red wine? Yeah, it's really good. You guys should taste it. It's good.
Don't waste that though.
Right, look, no, you see how you want this like there's no spilling going on this week.
Well, let's see. Tonight I have grapes. I already ate, so I'm eating my snack, which is some grapes for the night. And I have my water. Got to go ahead and get that in. So that's what I'm chewing and sipping on tonight. But, all right, you ladies ready? I'm ready to rock and roll.
Definitely.
All right.
I think I'm supposed to introduce our featured guest, which, again, we're so happy to have Misha Granato back with us this week. She is the founder and principal consultant at Love Grows, the relationship consultant. And we definitely wanted to have her because our topic for this month has been around love and relationships, and this is her area of expertise. And I love the way that she approaches the whole topic of love and relationships. It's not just, a lot of times you'll hear people talking about love and relationships and they're just talking about how to get hooked up, how to get your man, how to get your woman, how to get, some great sex or whatever. But she's really going in depth into all different types of relationships, the health of relationships, and talking about how that affects us in our holistic health and wellness. So welcome, Misha.
Thank you so much, Ivy and Keisha. You know I love and relationships. So to have the opportunity and this platform to speak to your audience, definitely a pleasure. Thank you, ladies.
Awesome. So this week we're back and we're talking about mastering the art of relationships. And the reason we picked that is because, Misha, that is actually one of your feature presentations that you talk about on your website. So we really wanted you to have an opportunity to talk to our audience about
looking at this person as my teacher. What were some of the lessons that I learned? And some of the lessons can be something as simple as I learned the things that I don't want, the things that don't work for me. Maybe I learned that this isn't the best way to resolve conflict. And even though I resolved conflict in that relationship this way, and the relationship dissolved as a result, moving forward, I have learned and I have that tool in my toolbox now. Other things, when you're angry, disappointed, stressed, frustrated, when you're fearful, you have anxiety, what do you need to do to bring that level of balance and sense of peace for yourself? Do you know that? Because again, in our relationships, it's about becoming a connoisseur of ourselves. So when you're stressed, what do you need? When you're angry, what do you need? How much time do you need to vent? Do you have healthy outlets? And so knowing that for yourself, that makes you better equipped that when you enter into a relationship, especially a romantic relationship, because let's not make any qualms about it. Everything's not going to be cotton candy and rainbows and all of this in our romantic relationships. We are humans and there are going to be times that we don't agree. But learning from our historical markers, just because we don't agree doesn't mean we have to become disrespectful. So that may be a tool that you've learned before. Okay, I need to learn how to articulate my feelings better. Or when I used to stuff things in and they came out and I vomited emotionally on my partner, that didn't support our relationship. So these, again, becoming a connoisseur of ourselves. And once you know that, you know what do you need from a partner. So for example, if I'm stressed, some people when they're stressed, they may want to, I need you to be a sounding board. Babe, I'm just going to come in. Babe, can you believe X, Y, and Z happened? And I just need you to listen. I just want you to be a sounding board. Other people, they may, when they're stressed or feeling anxiety, they may want quiet time. And some people may actually have a code word. The red robin has left the building. Just something that as a partner, your partner knows, okay, let me get her bath water ready, let me whatever the case, because I know this plan's going into effect for her. Sometimes some people really need that time to focus on whatever it is, and once they've calmed down, then they're ready to share that information with their partner. So again, from your historical markers, what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Because again, mastering the art of relationship is mastering yourself. What irritates you? Where do you need to grow? This is an important one. From your past relationships, again, it doesn't matter if it was your friendships, if it's business, family, where do you need to grow? Where are some areas that you said, like, okay, this is an area where I need to improve? And more importantly, what are you doing to improve in those areas? Because you are the common denominator in all of your relationships. So it has to get to the point that you have to start looking at yourself. Everybody else can't be wrong. It can't be, you know, this guy or this girl or these individuals. Everybody else is crazy. Everybody else is too sensitive. No, you're rude. You are rude. And let's be honest about it, you know. So what is that? How do you define love? Where did you learn about it? And your definition of love and relationships, is it suiting you now? You know, do you still have this idea of love, and is it something that's practical in your life? And understanding, where did you get that from? And is it something that is aligned with where you want to go? Is it supporting the relationships you have now? Or do you need to let go of that belief, that perspective?